We get a lot of questions about whether or not you can do dye sublimation without using a heat press and by using a Cricut Easy Press. We're going to talk about that coming up. I'm Roger. Welcome to the loft above the shop. Because it's cold down there, it's even colder outside, and it's nice up here. What we're going to talk about here is using a Cricut Easy Press to do dye sublimation. I'm going to do two different projects here. One will be this heart-shaped jigsaw puzzle, and this is a sublimation blank. It's made for sublimation. The other is a Dollar Tree 8x10 canvas. We're going to put laminate on it, and we're going to sublimate on it. We're going to do the whole thing using a Cricut Easy Press rather than my Tussie heat press. So I have graphics printed over here, and I'm letting the ink dry, and we're going to get things set up and do a little bit of sublimating, and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, we're going to start with the canvas here. So I've actually taken it out of the package. Obviously you don't want to try to do that with the plastic still on it. This is a 1/2 of a laminate pouch. You'll notice one side is matte, one side is shiny. The matte side will go down like so. A little piece of dust on there. And I'm not going to cut it to size yet. Lay a piece of paper down. Oh, not that one. I use parchment paper. You can also use butcher paper. And what we're going to do here is just set the laminate onto the canvas before we put our sublimation piece on there. And I use parchment paper. As I said, you can use butcher paper. I'm going to press this at 385 for about 20 seconds, just enough to get that set. Not a whole lot of pressure. And it's actually set here for 60, but I'll just count it down. Okay, and that'll have your laminate set. You want to let that cool just a little bit before you put your graphic on there. Okay, I've cut the excess laminate off. X-Acto knife, scissors, razor blade, however you want to do it. I use a rotary cutter on my mat. So what we want to do now is get our graphic. Remember when you are printing your graphic to mirror it. This is a picture I'm using. I'm going to get this kind of set on there the way I want it. And you want to use some heat resistant tape. Make sure nothing moves, or you'll end up with what they call ghosting. In a regular heat press, this isn't quite so much of an issue, but when you're using an easy press like this and you're manually holding that down, you absolutely want to hold still. Get everything set. Turn this over so the canvas is down and the paper is up. Parchment paper or butcher paper over the top of it. We're going to go 385 for 60 seconds with pretty firm pressure, and don't move. It's better to have this on a low surface so you can lean down on it and you're less apt to move around when you're doing it that way. There's our time. And that's hot. Okay, not perfect. I'll show you what happened here. Wasn't enough even pressure. I wasn't pushing hard enough. You can see right here in the center where this pillow kind of went down. So I do not have a perfect print right here. So we'll try this with the jigsaw puzzle. Normally this will work. I know it works in the heat press because I do this all the time. But here you can see it wasn't completely even. Maybe if I had a little firmer pillow underneath, for example, using the mat off the heat press underneath would be better than this. Tends to have too much give to it. We'll try another one here too though. Okay, I got another canvas prepped here, got the laminate on it. I didn't sheet that again. So we'll get this lined up on this photo like I want. Get her taped down. It doesn't move. Okay, so this time, instead of using the Cricut mat, I'm going to use the rubber mat off of my heat press. It's a lot stiffer, a lot firmer. You may not have this, of course, if you don't have a heat press. This is a lot firmer, which is going to let me get much firmer pressure on here. So parchment paper down. Yes, that's a little scorched, but that sits on the heat press a lot. Our photograph on here. Get it set. Parchment paper over that. And I mean lean on it. Much better color. And it's hot. However, it's still right in the center right here is where I'm just not able to get, even though I'm just laying on that, I'm not getting enough pressure down on a piece this big, even with this firmer backing. So here's our picture, but as you can see, the color in the very center there is not as nice as I would like it to be. I would much rather use the heat press for this, but if you're doing, I think, something a little smaller than an 8x10, the Cricut press would probably work just fine. Okay, for the puzzle, and as I said, this is a sublimation blank, and the image is mirrored. You need to be very careful when you're doing this, or your puzzle will come apart. You want to turn that over, line it up where you want it on your photograph or on your print, and tape it down well. You could cut this down. I'm not going to bother, but you could. So we'll start out here with a piece of parchment paper. I'm going to take the cardboard that was on the back of the puzzle, lay it back on it again, like so. Flip the whole thing over. Carefully set it on the heat press pillow here. Piece of parchment paper on top of that. We're going to press this at 385 for 60 seconds with very firm pressure. Remember to keep very firm pressure down and don't move. Okay, there we are. Get our parchment paper off of there. It's hot. And there's our puzzle. There again, just make sure you remember to keep very firm pressure on that. Well, that's still plenty hot. Okay, now I'll get another canvas together and I'm going to try this just a little bit different. They're doing the same thing here, except this time I'm going to use a heat press on this canvas print. Everything's prepped identically the same. And we'll give this a shot. 385, 120 seconds. Drop this down here and let that cool off a bit. Absolutely perfect. So it makes a big difference pressure-wise. and how evenly and how firmly you can keep that pressure. So what's the verdict here? Well, the jigsaw puzzle came out absolutely perfect. Had issues with getting enough even pressure using the Cricut Easy Press on both of these. The second one did come out a little bit better than the first one because I really laid on it, but it still was not enough even pressure for something this large, even with my heat press mat underneath, which is firmer, to make that flat enough and have enough pressure to get the absolute center of this. And it could be possibly that Easy Press is a little bit concave. I don't know. I've rarely used it anymore. I dig it out to do this video. But as you can see, when I did it with a regular heat press, it come out perfect. 120 seconds, 385 degrees. That's laminate over Dollar Tree canvas. And then my sublimation dyed print on sublimation paper on top. It was mirrored. So this came out fine. So there's kind of a yes and no answer on whether or not you can use a Cricut Easy Press to sublimate with. I've had people ask, can you do a cutting board, one of the glass cutting boards like we do a lot of, using a Cricut Easy Press? I suppose you could. You would need a very, very firm backing because you are sublimating and making that come up from the bottom, and you're not pressing it down from the top. So I don't know that I'd want to try leaning on that thing that long. That's probably better for an actual heat press. But there's kind of an answer on whether or not the Cricut Easy Press works with sublimation. On small items, you know, if you're doing coasters, or maybe if you did one of these on a 5x7 or a 4x6, it'd probably be just fine. Trying to do an 8x10 on it, as you saw, that didn't work out too well. I did misstate times a little bit while I was doing that. It's 120 seconds, not 60, to do this here. So if you got anything out of this, appreciate getting a thumbs up. Always helps the channel. Otherwise, I'm Roger, up in the loft, not in the shop. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.